I'm Bob Windover. What's the difference between being overwhelmed and burned out? And as a manager, what can you do to meet people where they are with all of these challenges? After all, not only does this impact productivity, it becomes a retention issue, doesn't it? Watch this short video for 3 simple ways I've seen managers address this effectively. Research burnout and its related keyword phrases online, and you'll discover that people search on these terms more than 100,000 times per month, or millions of times per year. In researching and writing about this issue for years now, I've discovered a couple of very interesting distinctions. First, the term burnout has become kind of a catch-all phrase for lots of people who feel periodically overwhelmed at work. You know, I am so burned out in this job, they'll say. That type of thing. And second, employers are wary of admitting that any of their people might actually be experiencing feelings of burnout. Why? Well, because that would kind of imply that they and their organization are the source of these symptoms. Problem is that when they refuse to acknowledge that the pace and demands of today's workplace may be contributing to this loss of focus and energy and balance, the people working for them don't think they care. When of course they do. With few exceptions, we can all feel overwhelmed at times. But when the pressure to perform becomes unrelenting, people begin to feel trapped. Thoughts about work become all-consuming. Worries about keeping up manifest both physically and emotionally. Not only do you feel tired, but now you might be battling a headache or a head cold that just won't go away. And that drains your energy as well. Yet, when the boss asks, "Hey, how you doing?" most people are still likely to say, "Oh, fine." And then the boss says, "Great." And the problem persists. Not only does all this have an impact on individual contributors, it impacts organizational productivity and it increases turnover. After all, who wants to remain in an environment where the management doesn't care about worker well-being, right? Now, of course, it's not that black and white. But if you're experiencing these pressures, it's only natural to focus on whose fault it is. And in an overwhelming number of cases, that fault seems to be attributed to the person in charge, whether that's fair or not. So, what can you do to ameliorate this issue as a manager? Here are 3 quick steps I've seen managers use to improve the situation in short order. If they're practiced consistently, by the way. You ready? Okay. First, make time for small talk. I know, who's got the time for small talk these days? But even introverts enjoy the occasional chat on the job about something other than work, right? But digital technology now obstructs this natural flow of relationships. So much of communication has become transactional, as in emails and texts and stuff like that people are simply not conversing with each other. And as a result, they don't get to know each other. Besides, telling a dad joke or making a smart-ass comment is just not the same if you have to type the whole thing out. The same is true with meetings. With so many of those now conducted virtually, people sign in 1 minute before the meeting is scheduled and depart immediately afterward. There's no time for, well, how was your vacation? Or, hey, what happened to the Broncos on Sunday? Now, I'll stipulate that you can't force these kinds of interactions with some people. They just won't participate. I get that. But these sort of conversations will be embraced by some if you let it happen, or maybe even kick it off yourself. As the age-old saying goes, all work and no play can make for a very boring and impersonal workplace. And, by the way, also ripe for retention problems. Now, second, encourage hourly breaks. There is abundant research indicating that taking 10 or so minutes once per hour to think about something non-work related eases stress and promotes creativity. Now, if you're interested in the research backing this up, let me know. I'll send it to you. Encourage people to take a walk around the workplace, or maybe outside, or grab something to eat or drink, or read a book, or do some exercise at the desk, or have a non-work related conversation, and so on. The only don't in all of this is checking social media or maybe helping somebody else with their own work. That's a no-no. You shouldn't do that. Now, you should be doing this as well, by the way. As a manager, you need it as much as everybody else. Now, that takes a while to implement, of course, simply because people may be wary of you telling them to take regular breaks, especially if the culture has not really embraced it in the past. But give it a try anyway. Third, make personal check-ins a part of your workplace rhythm. Now, I realize that there's a bunch of ways to ask, how you doing? As with encouraging hourly breaks, some people may not believe you actually care, at least initially. So it takes some consistency and perseverance. The managers I've noticed who are successful at doing this ask the question in informal settings rather than in some sort of official check-in meeting. They also stop and wait for an answer past the obligatory, "oh, fine." And this takes more emotional energy for some managers than others. I get that. But it's well worth the effort. Remember, it's not the money and rewards that retain people most of the time. It's the relationships that they have. The key to these three strategies is consistency. For some people, developing this consistency will require some effort. For others, it comes naturally. Now, on top of that, it takes time to become believable, especially if this type of thing doesn't seem to exist elsewhere in the organizational culture right now. Having the presence of mind to take a couple of minutes for a bit of small talk while passing someone in the hall, or reminding someone to take a break as you walk past them, even if they resist the idea, and sincerely asking about how a person is feeling and then waiting a few extra seconds after they say fine, will encourage them to open up over time. Will this work for everyone? Of course not. But a sincere effort will result in a better rhythm under your watch and the growth of trust that every team desperately needs these days. What do you do to address the issues of burnout and overwhelm in your workplace? Type them into the comments below. I and pretty much everybody else would really like to know. And make sure to subscribe to this channel for more proven strategies just like these. I'm Bob Windover.